Yo, what is going on out there, everybody? Man, welcome to a brand new episode of the Ballers Report podcast right here on the Warzone Sports Network. It has been quite some time since I've had a chance to talk to you guys out there. A lot of illness going on in the Epting household. Man, I lost my voice there for a couple weeks and just a whole bunch of other life stuff, man, that got in the way. But we are here and we are back. And I appreciate the guys at the Warzone Sports Network, man, for being so patient with me. So welcome me into another episode. We got a lot to get into as usual. Man, we got some NBA. We got some NFL. I could talk about a bunch of stuff, man, because it's been so long since I've spoken with you guys. But we're also going to get into Did You See That? And it features a very, very good homie of mine. I can't wait to unveil that. So, without further ado, man, you already know what time it is. Let's go get it.
Right about now, you're about to be possessed by the sounds.
2-6 shit. Yeah, I know what it is. You little suckers get to talking, grabbing and walking, strapped to the pong of the jaws and smacking they sleep with the golfers. And they getting greedy like saying, give me all.
Yes, sir, buddy. You already know what it is when you hear that music, man. It's the Ballers Report podcast, Warzone Sports Network. Willie Epting Jr. holding it down, man. Shakeback Media Group. It's all over the place. Big time, real time, and fine time, man. I'm telling you, I'm so glad to be back with the network, man. I appreciate those guys, man, for being so patient. Like I said, we got a lot to get into, but I want to start the show off by actually just offering our prayers, sincerest prayers and condolences to everyone that's been affected tragically by the mass shooting that took place in Buffalo, New York, here over the past few days. I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of rhetoric about it. Just understand that in order for things to change, we must change. And to all of the to the families and those that were actually killed, man, our heartfelt prayers and thoughts and well wishes and condolences go out to all of the families involved. And yes, that does even include the shooter, because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, love conquers hate. And anybody out there that knows me and knows what we're all about here at the Shakeback Media Group, you understand that we hate division, we hate racism, we hate things that are wrong, and we love things that are right. I don't care what race, creed, color, shade you are. It doesn't matter. Right is right and wrong is wrong. All right, let's get to some NBAyyyyeee, because we are set. The Final Four is set. And I haven't spoken to you guys at all since the playoffs. Since the regular season ended and the playoffs begun. But here are a few of my highlights up to this point. Number one, the Brooklyn Nets failed. And I am happy about that, because I don't like it when these players get together and form these super teams. It just takes away the rivalry and the as a matter of fact, I think it takes away from the rivalry of the fans in terms of a fan's perspective. Number two, the Philadelphia 76ers. And anybody out there that knows me and has heard me and listened to me and been on the show with me know how I feel about James Harden. I am not a fan of James Harden because of the way he tried to play me. So he has held 3 NBA franchises captive. First, the Houston Rockets. Second, the Brooklyn Nets. Third, the Philadelphia 76ers. And with the Sixers, the last one, how can you be a player that earns over $47 million a year, and your game has gone from like one of the top 5 in the NBA? This is the first time you seen my game? That's the first time. That's what he said to me when I interviewed. But anyway, so how can you go from that to going 0 for 2 and no shots in the fourth quarter in a closeout game at home in Philly. Not only that, you had only 4 assists and 3 turnovers in the second half. Number 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Again, I apologize for saying at the end of last year that he was not a superstar. He definitely is. The defending champions, there would not be a repeat champion in the NBA this year thanks to those Boston Celtics under first-year head coach, I can't even pronounce his name. I'm not even trying to butcher it. In my opinion, very well could have been coach of the year, but how can you not give it to the Phoenix Suns head coach, Monty Williams? And that brings me to number 4. Monty Williams, the Phoenix Suns, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, all those guys. You go out and you get beat at home in a 7th game of which you worked so hard for after obtaining the number 1 seed, not just in the Western Conference, but all throughout the playoffs as far as you were going to go. Luka Doncic is that dude. I'm telling you right now, he is that dude. I have seen this dude play up close and in person. I have talked to him before. This dude is the real deal, and his game is so fluid. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like he's moving in slow motion, but he's dropping 35. You know, he's dropping 10 dimes. He's getting 8-9 rebounds. He's shaking people and putting them on their back and then looking at them and draining step back threes from 2-3 feet behind the 3-point line. That's what he does. And the Dallas Mavericks, led by head coach Jason Kidd, who already has a championship as a player here, who's one of the top 4 or 5 point guards of all time, very well could have been coach of the year as well. He got him in the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors. Now, say what you will about the Warriors and what you think is going to happen in this series, but the fact that the Phoenix Suns, last year's runner-up, the Milwaukee Bucks, this year's runner-up, they are no longer in the playoffs, and there will be definitely a new champion crowned for the 2022 NBA season. And let's go back to Chris Paul for a second, because a lot of people are saying that this was his last best chance. Okay, they said that last year. I actually said it last year because I didn't even have the Phoenix Suns even winning in that division. I mean, I, like most people, picked the Lakers to win the Pacific and then come out of the West as a whole to represent the champ or the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. But we all know how that went. Okay, but is this truly the last best chance for Chris Paul? I welcome your comments. You can hit me on Twitter at Shakeback Media Group. As a matter of fact, let me just go ahead and put it up right here, or on Instagram, either one. You see that? Follow us on Twitter. I actually happen to believe that this was Chris Paul's last best chance as a Phoenix Sun. Now, if he can take another pay cut and maybe go get traded to the Bucks, that would be something special. Now, the Bucks without Chris Middleton, Giannis got worn down. Basically, that's just what happened. He wore down. Okay, and excuse me, and for a team as like the Phoenix Suns, they got a great mix of veterans and young players. More so young players. I think Chris Paul, he is by far the oldest player on that squad. But Booker is young, Ayton is young, Bridges is young. Jay Crowder is not that young, but he's not necessarily old either. But for the Suns, I think that this may have been Chris Paul's last best chance. You got to think that the Warriors are going to be better next year. You have to believe that the Lakers are going to be better next year. Don't know who the head coach is going to be. I wouldn't mind it being Jay Wright, the 2-time NCAA champion from Villanova. I would love to see him coach the Lakers. You got to think that Dallas is going to be right back. You have to think that Memphis is going to be right back. So that's 4 teams in itself. And then you got to think that something's going to happen with the Pelicans when Zion comes back. Zion didn't play a game this year, and rightly so. But they made the play-in tournament. you got to think that Minnesota is going to be better because they gave the Grizzlies fits in the playoffs. So when you look at it from the standpoint of that, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Mavs, the Grizzlies, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans, that's 6 teams right there. And I haven't even gotten to Phoenix yet. You would have to think that all of those teams are going to be better. Not saying they're going to be better than the Suns, but they're going to be better, thus making it more difficult for the Suns to get as far as they did this year and definitely last year. So why I say this is his last best chance. He's 37 years old. I mean, he hadn't lost a step, and he said in an interview after the game, after Game 7, that he's not retiring tomorrow. So he expects that they will be right back there next year. And then I didn't even mention Denver. They got the, oh, by the way, 2-time reigning MVP in Nikola Jokic. They also played all year without their second best player in Jamal Murray. And then their third best option in Michael Porter Jr. They're going to be back. So that's 8 teams right there. So the West is going to look like the West it used to when you had teams that were finishing 44 and 38 and not making the playoffs. Granted, there is the play-in tournament. So there's opportunities for more teams to actually have an impact and more teams to fight for those final spots or those ending spots in the conference. But for Chris Paul, and as the Suns are currently constructed, and with everything that I just said in terms of I'm thinking that those other teams are going to be better than they were this year, I think that this has been Chris Paul's last best chance. Okay. NFL. A lot has happened, man. You've had the draft, you had the trade of Devontae Adams going from the Green Bay Packers to the Las Vegas Raiders. We've had the schedule to come out. I actually highlighted the schedule weeks 1 through 18 on the Shakeback Sports Show that you can actually catch on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast materials. As a matter of fact, the Vegas Raiders are figured prominently in a lot of those highlighted games that I actually talked about. And the first game comes to mind because the first game of the season is a lot like the last game of last season, where you had the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers going at it. Shout out to my girl, Brandy Guyton. She is the mom of Jalen Guyton, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. She has been on the show. We are actually in production for something coming up, hopefully real soon. But I told her, I said, look, it's hashtag Raider Nation all day. And I can't even visibly and realistically and with a good conscience root for the Chargers, even when they're not playing the Raiders, because we're in the same division. That's a rivalry, man, going all the way back to the 60s. So I'm rooting for Jalen. I'm hoping he gets 100 catches for 1,500 yards and 10 scores. But he just goes over against the Raiders. That's what I need to happen. No disrespect, no shade, none of that. There's also a game that features the Raiders. And what up, Joe? I know me and Joe, I think, are the only Raider fans here on the Warzone Sports Network. But here's the thing with the Raiders, too. Another game that just jumped out at me. Okay. This is, I think it's week 15 or 16 when the Raiders go back to Pittsburgh. Again, this is like the 3rd or 4th straight year we got to play the Steelers in Pittsburgh. And that was the scene 50 years ago this season of the immaculate non-reception. What am I talking about? That game in the playoffs where the Raiders were up, I believe it was 7-6, and Terry Bradshaw tried to hit either Lynn Swann or John Stallworth over the middle. Got hit by Jack Tatum. The ball popped up in the air, was picked up off the turf by one Franco Harris, who races the rest of the way for the game-winning touchdown, and it became an immaculate reception back in 1972. We all know that it was not a reception. That ball hit the ground, and the Raiders should have been going on off to the AFC championship game that year. But this is the scene that will be set there. Not saying that has any dwelling on how we are going to act as fans, but it is a milestone of one of the greatest events that has taken place in NFL history, and I think that's pretty big. That is happening in year 50. Okay, also in week 1, you have Seattle. They're going to be welcoming home their favorite son in Russell Wilson, as Russell Wilson and the Broncos will be heading out there to take on the Seahawks. Now, who knows who's going to be playing quarterback for the Seahawks? Will it be Drew Lock? Will it be Baker Mayfield? Who will it be? Well, one thing we know is that they have Pete Carroll as their head coach. Another thing that we know is that Pete Carroll has not had any losing seasons with Russell Wilson as the quarterback until last year. I wish I had a drum roll sounder right there. But since last year. And now he's coming back. And Russell Wilson with the Denver Broncos, with the weapons that they have, so many people have been saying, yo, the Broncos are a quarterback away. The Broncos are either Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or somebody of that caliber away. Deshaun Watson, of course, when he was in the mix. So now they have him. But here's the thing. Are we really sold on Russell Wilson as being that guy at quarterback, i.e. Tom Brady, i.e. Justin Herbert or Matthews? Are we figuring Russell Wilson to be that dude? Because when they won those championships, or when they won that championship against the Broncos in Super Bowl, whatever it was, man, that was propelled by the defense. And in the same token, the one that they lost to New England, where I forgot Malcolm's last name. Malcolm, whatever his name was, from the Patriots, intercepted Wilson on the goal line after Marshawn Lynch had gotten them down there with a big catch. And then there was another big catch by, I believe it was Doug Baldwin. They did not give the ball to Marshawn Lynch from the 1 yard line. I think that would have set history differently, especially with the New England Patriots. But who knows? But is Russell Wilson? We're gonna really find out if he is that dude. Okay. Let me see if I can actually pull this up, because I had a blast talking about this. Okay, yeah. So let me just go through a few more of these games that I'm looking at that's gonna stand out. Week 5, you have the Cowboys at the Rams. Cowboy fans all over the world. You also have that week the Raiders at the Chiefs. Now the Chiefs are no longer with Sammy Watkins. They're no longer with Tyrann Mathieu. They're no longer with Tyreek Hill, but they still have Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball all over the place. They still have Travis Kelce as one of the 1, 2, or 3 best tight ends in the game. And they still have Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy calling the shots. But that team is going to look markedly different this year. And what the Raiders have added in terms of Chandler Jones on one side, extending Mad Max Crosby on the other side, picking up Rock Yasin, I can't even pronounce the dude's name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. The cornerback that came over from the Indianapolis Colts in the trade for Yannick Ngakoue. Now, I like Yannick, but he ain't no Chandler Jones. Y'all remember Chandler Jones had 5 sacks against the Tennessee Titans last year, or it may have been the year before that. I think it was the first game of the year when he was with the Cardinals. And you have an improved linebacking core, and you have better cornerbacks. And you got to hope that in some way or fashion that Jonathan Abram would not kill himself, and that he's improved somewhat in pass defense. Now, we know he can bring the blade and he can blitz. And then Trevon Moore from TCU, he showed flashes as a rookie last year as to why he was one of the top safeties coming out of college football 2 years ago. So, look, it's going to be a barn burner. Some other games real quick, man, because I want to get to Did You See That? And then we actually going to get up out of here. But Colts at Raiders, Cowboys at Packers in week 10. Week 9, Rams at Bucks. Of course, that's a rematch of last year's NFC divisional round where Tom Brady and the Bucks were down 27-3 and stormed all the way back, took the lead before losing out there. Week 11, Browns at Bills. Chiefs at Chargers week 12. Bengals at Titans. We all know that is a rematch of last year's AFC divisional round where Mr. McPherson nailed the 50-yarder at the horn to send the Bengals off to Kansas City. And in that same weekend, Rams at Chiefs. I'm thinking the last time these two teams played in LA at the old Coliseum, Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes put up over 1,200 yards of total offense, I think it was. 1,200 yards total offense. So now you have Matt Stafford, who's more than capable of doing the same thing. And you have Patrick Mahomes, who is going to be missing Tyreek Hill. And by week 12, we're going to see a lot of things about the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I got a funny feeling for a coach whose run pass ratio is usually between like 60 to 70 to 30 to 40. I want to see what Andy Reid's going to do now that he doesn't have Tyreek Hill on the outside. Because I'm going to say it again. Without Tyreek Hill, the Kansas City Chiefs receiving core was average at best. Average at best. Now, I do know they have Juju Smith-Schuster. I do know that they actually picked up Alan Lazard from the Green Bay Packers. Oh, cool. Or no, I'm sorry, Mark Valdez-Scantling. And they also have Josh Gordon, who they actually re-signed. So what that tells me is that they've seen enough of Josh Gordon to believe that he's going to have some sort of positive effect on what's going on in that offense. But I got a funny feeling that Clyde Edwards-Helaire and whoever their other running back is going to be are going to be linchpins for the running game. Their offensive line was already one of the best in the league. And to be honest, this may actually be better for Patrick Mahomes in the long run because the defenses that he has to go up against in the AFC West, the lines that he has to go up against, you got for the Broncos, you got Randy Gregory on one side, you got Bradley Chubb on the other side. Okay, for the Chargers, you have Khalil Mack on one side, you got Joey Bosa on the other side. For the Raiders, you got Chandler Jones on one side, you got Max Crosby on the other side. So that's to me it's going to spell a more advanced and upgraded running game in terms of the amount of touches and carries that those running backs get every game. That's just what I think. Other games as we proceed forth, how about the Bucks at the Niners? Tom Brady goes home for a Week 14 tilt with the San Francisco 49ers. Who's going to be behind center for the 49ers at that point? Will it be Trey Lance? Will it be Jimmy Garoppolo? Will Deebo Samuel even be on the team? We shall see. Week 16, we just touched on it a minute ago, Raiders at Steelers. But how about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys? This game right here, to me, this game is going to be the deciding factor as to who wins the NFC East. The Cowboys, to me, they probably have now the second, possibly third best roster in the East, but they still have the best quarterback. They don't have the best running back anymore. I think that goes to Saquon Barkley when he's not injured. And then what Philadelphia has done for themselves, not just in the draft, but trading for A.J. Green from the Tennessee Titans. They have A.J. Green. They have Dallas Goedert at tight end. And you got Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith, in case you guys didn't remember, he actually won the Heisman a couple years ago. So they got the big beast at wide receiver on one side. You got the tight end that can work the middle. And then you have the speedster on the other side. And then you have a running back or a running game that features Miles. What is Miles' last? Miles Sanders, who's very shifty and underrated in his own right. And then you have the defense that's still the defense. So a lot is going to depend on what Jalen Hurts does in terms of his development and his advancement as a passer. But look for a lot of things that they ran at Oklahoma in Philadelphia, again, with the added threat of speed on the outside with Devontae and a possession receiver who can actually beat you deep as well in Brown. So the East is going to be much improved, but I think it's going to be more or less, or really more, because of the Eagles And say what you will about the Commanders. I mean, they already had a decent enough roster. They've got good running backs. They have a very good wide receiver core. Their tight end, Logan Thomas, who was a quarterback at Virginia Tech, is one of the better tight ends that nobody talks about in the NFL. He got hurt last year and he was injured last year, but that dude can play. He is a baller. Ballers Report podcast right here on the Warzone Sports Network. But that's what I'm saying. All those things with the Commanders. And then the Cowboys. The Cowboys, they have one of the weakest schedules in the NFL. Now, they got the Colts at home in week 13. They got the Buccaneers in week 1. But here's the thing. Here's my take about the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott, I know they gave that dude $90 million a couple years ago. They're regretting that now. I think Zeke Elliott is burned. And they have a running back that's behind him in Mr. Pollard that can play every down and is actually more explosive than Zeke is. And Zeke comes in last year. They said he was in the best shape of his life or whatever, or of his career. But it didn't show it. Now, I know they had a bunch of offensive line problems, but if you're a back like Pollard that can be shifty and got some speed and actually can run through the tackles, I believe that you're more of a balanced back than Ezekiel is. And then let's go to the wide receiver core, because all of the Dallas Cowboy fans, especially around here, or most of them anyway, or not even most of them, just some of them that were screaming for the outage or the ouster of Amari Cooper after they said, oh man, we got Amari Cooper from the Raiders. We got our number 1 receiver. I said, just wait, hold on. He's going to disappoint you. And he did. He did more times than they ever thought that he would, because they had their number 1 receiver. But now he's in Cleveland. And Amari Cooper is one of the best route runners in the game. I don't understand why or how a receiver that is so skilled and has so much prowess in the art and science of running routes disappears the way that he does. I don't get it. So when I see that, okay, and now he's in Cleveland, right? He's in Cleveland. So now that's going to force CeeDee Lamb to the front part of the stage. He's now the lead singer of the Temptations. Okay? You're about to find out just how much or not a number 1 receiver CeeDee Lamb is. Because Cooper is not there to take that pressure off. Michael Gallup is injured. He's going to be out probably until week 11 or 12 because he got an ACL injury. And I know the Cowboys did get, and they also lost a couple. They lost Cedric Wilson, and I can't remember the other kid's name, Noah. They lost them in free agency, one to Jacksonville and one to Miami. So if you look, and then their offensive line, Travis Frederick is gone. La'el Collins is gone. La'el Collins is in Cincinnati. So they did pick up an offensive lineman in the first round of the draft. But I don't know. I think from the standpoint of that, the Cowboys got worse. And then, as we talked about with the Broncos in the AFC West, they lost, or they actually gained the Broncos from the Cowboys, one of their best pass rushers in Greg. I'm sorry, Randy Gregory. I almost said Greg Lloyd. Randy Gregory. So what is that going to do to DeMarcus Russell? I mean, DeMarcus Russell. DeMarcus Lawrence. Tank Lawrence. What's it going to do to him? Okay. The linebacking core, they brought back, Van Der Esch on a 1-year deal. But that dude, Michael Parsons. Okay. Now, offensive coordinators and line coaches now have a blueprint on what they can do to actually maybe slow down somewhat Michael Parsons and what he did last year. He's drawing comparisons to Lawrence Taylor. I think it's a little too soon for that, but that's just me. So the NFL season is going to be on fire. The draft is come and gone, and there weren't, to me, a whole lot of great, sexy picks in terms of the position players outside of wide receiver. Kenny Pickett goes to Pittsburgh, and then you have all these receivers that got drafted. to include Chris Olave. He's in New Orleans and so forth and so on. But those guys, man, look, they're gonna contribute. When I'm talking about those guys, I mean those receivers. They're gonna contribute. They're gonna be asked to contribute quickly, and that just made what that has to be in terms of those teams getting to where they want to ultimately be. Okay. One last thing before we get up out of here, because I tell you, man, time flies when you're having fun. We're coming up on the end of the show. I haven't done this on this show in quite some time. So this is the part of the show where I say,
oh my God, did you see that?
Yeah, this episode's Did You See That? Comes from my big homie, Jose Trevino, once of the Texas Rangers, now of the New York Yankees, the evil empire. And shout out to my boy, the dopest barber on the planet, Ken Hill, for sending me this footage. He was actually able to make it to Chicago over the past weekend and see the Yankees play against the White Sox, and actually got a chance to talk to Jose and kick with him a little bit. And also Colin Thoreau, who is also on the staff up there in New York. But here is my Did You See That? And it comes from Jose Trevino, and this is what he did.
3 steps closer to the bag. So outstanding job by not being lazy and paying attention to the details.
That one's driven into right field and deep, and that ball is gone. A 3-run home run for Jose Trevino just inside the pole, and the Yankees lead 4-0.
His first dinger as a New York Yankee. So congratulations, treat the Vino man. I'm hoping for great things for you out there in New York, except for when y'all play the A's, but the A's are terrible this year. So I got to have a team to root for, but I don't know who it's going to be. But I'm always wishing success for you, man. So I appreciate Ken for sending me that info or that footage. Okay. That's it. That's all I got. It's been a blast. I'm glad to be back on the air here on the Warzone Sports Network, man, for myself. That is Willie Epting Jr., the Ballers Report podcast, Warzone Sports Network. Y'all take care of each other. Y'all hug each other. Y'all love each other. I promise y'all it's going to be all right. And we'll talk to y'all again real soon. Peace. I'm out.